welcome to the 412 Media Foundation Youth Workshop. I'm excited to share some knowledge on photo and video today. My name is Stanley Rashai. I'm a content creator. I do photo, video, and a bunch of other things as well too. But today I'm going to be talking to you specifically about photo and video. So I'm super excited. Unfortunately, this was intended as an in-person event, but it's going to be online. So it's going to be a little different, but I'm still going to bring that energy and hopefully you enjoy it. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the experience I've had and some tips and advice I can give you if you're trying to get into the photo and video. And the nice thing is that I've been in the place that you're right now. I remember figuring it all out. I made a lot of mistakes and it's been an interesting journey. I was able to turn something that was a hobby for me at one point into something I do seriously. So as a career, so I'm super excited to share some of the tips. So I'm just going to give you a quick little rundown of how it's going to go. I'm going to introduce myself, give you a bit of an experience on kind of some of the cool things I've done, and then also share a couple other tips. So one of the things I'm going to share with you is the tips and the skills that you need to be successful in every share. Some mistakes that I've made and some, things that will make you more marketable and more adequately equipped for the industry. Then I'm going to share with you, we're going to go through an actual demonstration of some work that I've done before. So I'm going to do some breakdowns of kind of how I start the project, kind of the whole process, and kind of like how I finish it. You get to kind of be a little fly on the wall, as they say. And then next thing, I'm just going to share some tools and some equipment I think that will make you a better photographer and videographer. And yeah, just give you some advice and tips as well for someone who's just started, kind of how to get into the industry. And yeah, just going to get right into it. So a little bit about myself, Mike. This is probably the first time you're seeing me and you're like, who is this guy? My name is Stanley. I go by Outlandish Visuals, and my story has been a very interesting one. I never intended to be a photographer. I never intended to be a videographer or a content creator. But my journey has been one of just like believing in myself and trusting and getting to know myself and just like all the dominoes kind of falling in place. But also some of the things I've done have kind of helped me get to the place that I am. So for context, when I was in my first year in university, I moved here all the way from Zimbabwe, not really knowing what I wanted to do, but I was enrolled in the computer science faculty at SFU. And I did that for a year, but I think a part of me knew this was not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And as I was going along thinking about what my career path would be, I realized computer science was not it. Not because I didn't enjoy the coding, but I realized I was not good at maths, and it was like I wanted to do something more creative, but I didn't know what that was. And the great thing is with going to SFU, it really opened up my eyes to a lot of different things that I never thought I would be exposed to. So one of the things that they make you do is like take a class in a different faculty. And that really helped me to kind of explore my creative side. So I took a graphic design class in my second semester, and it really got me excited. I was like, oh, this is something I want to do, but I wasn't sure what that was. It kind of scratched that itch. So as I was going down the journey, and then I eventually ended up switching into, it's called Interactive Arts CAD, which is a program that was designed at SFU that mainly focuses on photo, video, graphic design, game design. It's a very multidisciplinary faculty. It was really great because I got to try all these different things. And when I switched over in my second year, what happened was I couldn't even get one of the classes I needed to. And my dad was like, hey, take this photo class that kind of would help you along the journey with the program. I was like, sure, how hard could it be? And I was like, this sounds like an easy A. And as I did the class, one of the things I realized is photography is not one of those things that I think now, specifically with the accessibility of technology, it's something that's very simple to most people, but it's not just you taking a nice photo. It's not just you taking a nice video, but it's like, what story are you trying to tell? And that was really kind of some of the things I learned in that class was really, how do I tell a story? And, some of the technical skills of like, what goes behind me lighting. As you can see, like the lighting I have here is very intentional. It's more like, I'm trying to tell a story. Also like color matching. There's all these things that go into telling a story, and into a visual. And I think that's one of the things I really learned in that class. And as I went to my journey, that class really kind of started off and helped me be more excited and I think be creative. And I think that's one of the tips I'm going to share. The first The first tip I'm going to share with you is, I think the skill that you need is your ability to tell a story and to be creative. I think a lot of the time we're so fixated on, I need the best equipment or I need the best editing tool, where it's like sometimes all you can really use is really, all you need is really just a phone. And I've created a lot of my content with just using my phone, but the thing that has elevated that piece of content or that visual has been, what story am I trying to tell? So that's been the biggest thing. I think it actually is one of the things that you need to learn along this journey. It's like, what story am I trying to tell? And I'll give this example. For me, I love coffee shops. I love working in coffee shops. It's a really big thing, especially for me working from home a lot. Sometimes I like to go out and try different coffee shops. And one thing I realized, every coffee shop is very unique and tells a different story, right? It's very intentional with the decor, the lighting, the type of coffee that they have. And that's something that's very intentional. I think as you were going along the journey, it's like figuring out what story you're trying to tell, because that then actually impacts how you tell that story. So, for example, if I wanted something that was a little bit more moody, I would light it a certain way. I'd wear certain clothes. There's also certain music that would be attached to that video, or like there'll be a certain style I could shoot that piece of content in. So I think one of the biggest things is learning how to tell a story, but also being creative. One thing I've learned too, I take inspiration from almost everything. Sometimes I get inspiration from a song, from a book, from a piece of content. If you look at my phone and my Pinterest, I have so many sources of inspiration, and you have to find what works for you. I think everyone is different. So how do you elevate your creativity? I think for me, I also do things outside of me creating content that help me feel inspired and help get those creative juices flowing. So I think that's one of the key things you need to focus on is, how do you tell a story effectively, and also how do you enhance your creativity to tell that story? And that class, like I said, mentioned, really helped me to kind of focus on those things. But again, like, these are things that you can learn online. You don't have to take a class, but if you Googled how to tell a great story or how to be creative, that's something you can literally YouTube. And I think it's been one of those things I've had to harness, and I consistently do that too as I work on myself as a creative. One of the next things too I want to share about is learning the skill of communication and interpersonal skills. One thing you cannot get away from in the industry is you're going to be working with other people. So you're going to be working in a team, either you being the one in charge of it or producing the project, or you being maybe in charge of lighting, maybe sound, whatever the case may be, if you're doing photo or video. But I think one of the things that you need to focus on is your interpersonal skills and your communication. So what does that look like? And I think that's something that's helped me grow as a creative, and really opened up a lot of doors for me, was really just learning how to collaborate well with people. And what does that look like? Because those collaborations I did at the beginning of my journey have actually blossomed into a lot of really cool projects I can work on now, because they had a great experience working with me. And now they're able to, like, hey, I remember I worked on this project with him. He was really great. I want to work with him again. But also, part of the tools of you learning the team is, one, being able to communicate what you want to share well and effectively, but also being able to take criticism too, when maybe someone on your team doesn't like your idea or think there's a better way of doing it. How do you receive that constructive criticism? Also being able to give out that constructive criticism, because it's a part of a journey. Like, not every idea is going to be great, so you kind of have to be open to that, but also maybe there's a better way of you doing whatever the thing is, right? So how do you receive that information well, and being able to work in a team? So I think that's something that's definitely necessary. And I think the ability to network and build connections, especially as a young person, it could be with the people, with your peers, the people around you, like, as you're growing and starting off along the journey. One of the things that's helped me grow is like being around people who inspire me and constantly being around in that environment, because not everyone sees life the way you see life, and that's great, because it helps you to channel different ideas and different perspectives. But also finding a mentor. I think one of the things that has really helped me is my ability to network and to get into rooms that I normally don't have access to. Especially as a student or as a young person, you have so many people who are willing to open those doors. And I think just coming as a student, hey, I just want to learn. Can I just come and chat with you for the day? Or can I just learn more about the business? Or can I have a coffee with you? It's a really good way of you being able to network and learn things. And I think it's one of those things that that really helps you. And I think also too, not just like having mentors, but also attending a lot of industry events. There's a lot of things that are open to you as a student, and I think taking that opportunity as a student to like learn like what photo conferences are happening. Especially now, I think a lot of it too. It doesn't have to be in person. It could be virtual too. There's so much that is available to you as a young person now with the internet. So definitely take that on and like attend as many in-person events as you can. But also, there's a lot of virtual ones that you can also kind of learn from. The next thing I want to talk about is actually, I think, is something that we as creatives don't really think about. But effectively, too, you have to look at yourself as running a business. Any creative agency, any media production is effectively running a business. And I think you learning the business side of it as on the same hand as you learning the creative aspect is very important because it does take money to produce a film, some photos, whatever project it is. It does require money. I think focusing on the business aspect of it is very important. So I think it's not only learning the business, but also learning how to market yourself as well. So I would pair those two things together. The business and the marketing acumen is something that's definitely very much needed. And these are some of the things I think we need to learn. It's like, how do you manage a project? What does it take to run a project? Those are effective skills, like, and like marketing skills, like, learning, for example, how to market a film or like a project, who is your target audience? And how do you navigate the different sources of marketing? Right now, you have things like YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok. There's so many things that are available to you, but learning which is the most effective way to market yourself is a great way. I think right now, just right off the jump, Instagram is a great way of doing that, but that also has a ceiling. And I think you being younger and like having opportunity and access to TikTok is a great way of you getting exposure and also blowing up, because I'm not saying you have to go viral every single time, but you creating that piece of content does produce that confidence, and also you have access to more people seeing your work. So I think being able to understand what the platforms and knowing how the different platforms actually work as well is a great tool as well. I highly recommend. And I think the next thing too, so being able to present and pitch an idea, whether it's pitching to a studio, an investor, or anyone really. You have to learn how to market yourself. I think one thing I learned, especially during the program, we consistently were pitching an idea and getting feedback as well from it. So like you being able to stand in front of a room and explain what the idea is and anything that goes into it is a great tool that you need. And one thing that I've been taught that has really helped me is like, if your idea or your project can't be explained in a way that a 5-year-old would understand, that means probably the idea is a little bit too complicated or you're not effectively communicating. So you have to think about it as I'm communicating this information to you. I'm basically thinking about, hey, like, how do I make it easy for people to understand, and like, how do I make it a general understanding too, right? So I think one of the things that being able to pitch an idea and present it in a way that is well-rounded and also effective, it's a great tool. The next thing that is very necessary is persistence and resilience. I think for me, as I looked back and even as I was thinking about how do I share this, my journey has been one of a lot of highs and lows. And I think the thing that has helped me be persistent was just really not being afraid to fail. Along the journey, you're going to fail a couple of times and you're going to do stuff really well. And I think it's learning from the times when you fail, but also learning when you do things really well. It's not always going to be the case. I remember there's a lot of projects I failed. There's a lot of deadlines I've also missed. And then there's new projects that I've done really well. But I think one of the things that helped me, especially from a young age, being almost a little delusional, thinking you're the best in the room, and not in a way that is ego based, but it's like you have to go in and really prove yourself. And I think a lot of that comes from you being able to make those mistakes really early on, because for the most part, you won't have the ability to make mistakes all the time. So that's why one of the things I did that helped me kind of build my persistence and resilience is, I remember when I first started, when I got my first camera, I would go out and shoot with friends every single Sunday. And throughout that week, I'll do this exercise of learning one new skill every single day for about an hour. And I'll just take the time, an hour in a day, and then at the end of the week, I would have worked about maybe 6 different techniques or 6 different styles of things I want to shoot, and then I would effectively just practice it on the Sunday. And one thing that really helped me, because I failed a lot, but also was able to kind of like build my process and tried a couple different things, it really helped my persistence and my resilience. And I think that's something that's very needed, because you're going to get rejected a lot, you're going to fail a lot, and I think you have to be persistent and be willing to take criticism is a very important thing, because not every idea that you have is going to be great. Not every project that you have is going to work out the way you think. So just being able to fixedly go through that process and learn from it will be something that will be a great tool, I think. So we're just going to go into what tools and equipment that you need to be a great photographer, to be a great videographer. What does that look like? Honestly, my best advice is just starting with your phone. Right now, phones do a really good job. You can shoot in 4K, you can shoot in 1080, but just going out and shooting with your phone. It's not the same as a camera, but I think it's a great starting place, because a lot of people then don't start because they don't have a fancy camera, they don't have access to lighting. I think one of the things that made me a better photographer, like I said, me being able to go out and shoot with the camera that I had at the time, it was a Canon T4i, which wasn't the greatest camera, but I was able to shoot with that, and I got to know my camera. So take the time to know your camera. So be it your phone, or if you have an actual camera, get to know how your camera works, because every camera works differently. I think just the ability to practice and learn whatever editing style that you want to learn, use, and what you have access to. Like for me, I use Premiere Pro, and that's actually recently switched over to DaVinci. And that's been a thing for me, because I was so fixated on what program I used, but me being able to start off with that one program actually helped me elevate my work and get better. And so there's a lot of tools that you can use, but I think for me, one exercise I think I want to share that really helped me too was I made a list of content creators or photographers, videographers that really inspired me. And what I did is I made a list of all these people, and every single week I'll kind of look at their page and like, what things inspire me about this person, how do they shoot, and kind of try to replicate that. And then effectively I had a list, I think, of like 20 creators that I really admired, and I took my favorite parts of their skill set and kind of added to my own. And which is very important, especially in the beginning, because you're not really sure what your style is. So you kind of have to go through the motions of discovering different ways of figuring what your style is. So that's a great tool. Maybe you like the way this person edits their colors, or maybe you like, like their style, maybe you like the way they pick music. Everyone has a very distinct style. I think for me, one thing that process kind of helped me, I love bright colors. I love fonts. I like the way I shoot and edit is very specific to me. And I think that's something that's very important, because as you develop that skill and you move on, you kind of want to create this feeling where more people can see your work and immediately be able to tell that this is that person's work. So one of the things that really helped me is learning what tools you need, and the equipment will really be a great start. And I think just start with what you have. Using your phone and a laptop. Maybe you can go to a library who don't have access to it, but whatever you have, there's always a means of way. I think don't be so fixated on what tools you have, but it's really about learning those tools and that skill set with whatever you have. I think right now there's a lot of access to CapCut. If you have a Mac, you can use Final Cut Pro. If you have access to Adobe, you can use Premiere. There's so many options out there. So find what works for you and just start. Don't let that be the reason that you don't start, because not having access to something is actually why a lot of people don't start. I think for me, I also suffered from that too, because I didn't have the nicest camera, I didn't have the nicest laptop. But I think once I just started getting that ball rolling, I actually could use what I have and just use what you have. Just start where you're at, even if it means you just film and edit on your phone through CapCut. It's great. And also, honestly, the phones today have actually really good cameras. A lot of my content that I post on social media is actually with my phone. I don't even carry my camera with me, but there is that added benefit. If you do have a camera, get to know your camera, spend time with it. One thing I did, like I mentioned before, was just really taking the time to just learn a couple skills throughout the week and a couple ways of shooting, and then every Sunday I would just grab a friend and then go shoot a piece of content and just try that out, right? So it's an effective way of you kind of learning that. And I think, yeah, it's a just start with what you have. Don't let that be the reason that you're not creating content because you're missing out on opportunities. Especially being young. Like I think one thing I realized too, the thing that made me a better photographer and videographer, like I actually was looking through some of my first piece of content and the excitement. I remember the excitement, the feeling that I had when I first created it, and how I thought it was like the best photo, the best video I'd ever made. And I think never lose that feeling, never lose that feeling of wanting to create something. There's that excitement because it will actually help you become a better creator because not every piece of content that you make, again, I have to say this, not every piece of content that you make is going to be inspiring, but I think it's that feeling that actually fuels you to try it, learn something new and to get better. And I often have to go back to that very first photo. I actually framed it. And I remember the excitement that I had. But I look back now, that was probably 8 years ago. I look at how my work has evolved as I've gotten better. And I look at it and I'm like, it's probably not a great photo, but I had to start somewhere. It's like learning how to ride a bike. Sometimes you start off with the training wheels and then they slowly come off and then you get a bigger bike and then you just, you can start doing tricks on that bike, right? So I think just go through the motion and the process of you actually learning things and don't be afraid to fail. It's a part of the journey. You're not going to make a great video right from the jump. You're not going to take a great photo right from the jump, but just be willing to actually make mistakes and not be, don't be too hard on yourself. So I'm going to go into some tips and tricks. I think that will be some of the, I think, things that will help you kind of improve as well. These are just general tips in photo and video. I think, like I said, practice often. Take regular practice. Is the best way to improve in any field. Like the more reps you get in, the better you get. And also, I think this is a great tool. It's something I actually do. Still to this day, it's something I do. So I actually have a group of photo creators that I work with on a regular basis, and we just go out and shoot for fun. Once a month or maybe twice a month, we just come up with different ideas and we just go out and shoot and practice. Because what you then realize sometimes when you're working in the field, you actually don't have the time to learn that new skill on the shoot day, but you need to learn how to effectively shoot. So something I do regularly with them, like we have different ideas. And the great thing is when you shoot or when you practice other people, you actually get to learn the skills that they have. And you can ask them questions like, hey, how did you shoot that? How did you like that? Or what is the inspiration behind you doing that thing, right? And it's a great way of you becoming a better photographer and videographer. One thing too, it also creates room for you to actually get feedback. So one thing that we do in this group is we actually make a lot of content and we have 4 other people now who can effectively give us feedback and be like, hey, I like the way you shot this, but maybe try something new. Or it's like, hey, what was the intention behind the video or the photo? I kind of missed that. And being able to have that constructive criticism would actually help you, because especially when you work with clients, that's kind of like the first line of defense before you even send to a client. Like, hey, they can actually give you a fresh perspective before sending it out to the client or maybe the production company that you're working for. So having a group of people that you can practice with and that can give you feedback is a great tool that I think I highly recommend. And again, like I said, collaborate with other people and work with other people. It's a great way of learning new skills. It's also a great way of opening doors with you, especially if they have a great experience with you. It opens up a lot of doors for you later. I think, like I said, a lot of the projects I've been able to work on have been through people that I've met along the journey and just treating people with respect. I think as long as people have a good feeling and enjoy working with you, they'll always recommend you because they've actively worked with you, right? And yeah, one of the next things too is stay inspired. Watch different films, listen to diverse music, study photography, study different people that you admire, study different forms of creativity and art. And I think that's one of the things that really has helped me become a better photographer and videographer and content creator. Is I have so many saved things in my Instagram, and I have a Pinterest board just of ideas that are constantly flowing. And sometimes the idea that you have might not work for the current project, but then it might be a source of information for maybe a project, maybe 6 months from now, a year from now, maybe even 2 weeks from now. So you never really know. Always constantly be taking in information and looking for different sources of inspiration. So with let's get into more technical skills. I think with videography in particular, you have to definitely learn to master composition, lighting, and like great videography starts with understanding just things like framing and lighting and different angles. These basics will help you create a more professional look, and learning different editing styles and software like Premiere Pro, Final Cut, DaVinci, CapCut. There's so many out there now. As these are industry standards, I would recommend just starting with something, and that'll help you kind of be prepared for, especially for the job. And again, there's so many tutorials, and there's so many ways to practice these things. So you can really just take a short clip and just start with that. Again, with videography, focusing again, like what I said, focusing on storytelling, even if it's just a short clip, having a story that flows is very key, and being able to tell an effective story is something that is definitely really good. The next thing with videography as well is just making sure you have good audio. I think good audio is one of those critical things. Like you can have the best looking visuals, but if you don't have good audio, it kind of defeats the purpose because you can't save that. So even with bad visuals, you can kind of throw some effects on there and throw some different things. But imagine if the audio for this video was not great and you couldn't hear what I was saying clearly. It kind of takes away from the experience. So you definitely want to learn some new things and make sure the audio is good. Again, I can't stress this enough. Practice, 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 and practice under different conditions. Experiment in different locations, different lighting setups, different environments. This will help you develop new skills and be adaptable because working in the industry, not every condition is going to be the same. I've shot a lot of projects outdoors. That lighting is very different. I've shot some stuff in studio. I've shot some stuff kind of just like run and gun, and it's kind of being able to kind of practice, like I said, effectively in different situations has really helped me become a better videographer for sure. Yeah, and I think I can't stress this enough that these are things too that you can look up online how to shoot certain ways, like again, like different compositions, different lighting. There's different styles that create, again, that add to that story aspect, right? That storytelling aspect that I mentioned before. So definitely do that. I think it will be an effective way of learning that new skill. So in terms of photography, again, very similar. Learn your camera settings. Get familiar with your camera. And also if you're shooting on manual mode, if you have a camera, or even with your phone, like there's a lot of things you can learn now too. It's like, how do you shoot a manual? Learning shutter speed, aperture, ISO, like these are settings that definitely add to the quality of your images. So you definitely need that, and the more you kind of tinker with your camera or your phone, the better you get. The next thing is too, there are rules of composition. There's techniques like rules of thirds or leading lines or symmetry. These are fundamental things that actually make a big difference. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, just Google composition rules, and there'll be so many tutorials and videos about this. But also, it's about learning how to use them effectively in the right way. And that's the nice thing about photo and video. Like these composition rules apply to photo and video, so you can learn these things simultaneously. The next thing is just developing an editing style and flow. Like how do you want to shoot and edit? Especially for photos, too. Like if you have a quick turnaround, maybe learning how to quickly select the photos and then editing them. And if you also think about it before you go into the shoot, it actually helps you become a better photographer because you can effectively work faster and spend less time in editing because you've thought about how you're going to shoot and edit it before the project even starts. So yeah, I think one of the most effective tools too for both photo and video, build a portfolio. I remember when I first started, I really just started with an Instagram page. Everything I shot was on this Instagram page, and I shot so many things. I remember working with so many people for free and did so much where I was able to add a portfolio. And even people ask me now, like, what do you like to shoot? I've shot so many different things. I've shot concerts, I've shot events, I've shot portraits, I've shot headshots, I've shot real estate. I've done, because I've been able to do so many different things. It's also allowed me to figure out what I don't like to do. I shot weddings for a while and I realized I actually hate shooting weddings, which is not a bad thing. Some people love shooting weddings, but it's just not for me. But because I actually was able to try those things, it allowed me to figure out what I didn't like, and also build that portfolio. So like now, if you look at my website, it's actually split up into different sections. It's portraits, fashion and brand content, fitness or sports, headshots, you name it. There's different categories for different things. So it really helped me to figure out what my niche was, and I kind of figured that out. So now we're gonna do something a little bit more fun. I'm gonna do a demonstration with a project I worked on. It wasn't my idea, but I got to kind of bring it to life. And it will show you that you don't have to always come up with the idea, but how do you focus on storytelling and kind of bring an idea to life. Okay, just give me a sec. I'm just gonna open this up real quick. So here we go. This was an interview style video that I worked on. Um, it was, again, helped a friend work on this project, and she just wanted me to be a camera operator, and I helped her figure out how we're going to light it, how we're going to record audio, different angles, and she had come up with kind of the idea and how to tell the story, and she picked the interview as well too. So it was a really nice project to work on. I kind of got to help her work through this. So now we're going to look and go into the production look. She sent me kind of the tone and atmosphere, and kind of these some examples of things that she wanted to kind of to work on. She really wanted to shoot it in black and white. She liked that look, and then as you can see too on the left side there is she wanted to light a certain way. As you can see, this is what they call Ramband lighting, where the lighting is falling very similar to this, where it's like the light is facing me a certain way, and on the other side is a little darker, and creates this very cinematic and well-rounded look. But also, once you were shooting this in landscape, so that's why if you look on the right, there's a wider look, and it's mostly just, as you can see, mostly waist up, and that's kind of how we filmed the project, which was really fun, and I think it was a great way to kind of tell the story and focus on the interviewee, right? So this was a great project and really fun. I will show you some kind of BTS of kind of how we filmed it, but one of the things was making sure we set up the lighting a certain way, and yeah, I'm just gonna go down and show you some examples as well of how we were able to achieve this look, and some BTS of what the shoot actually looked like and the final look. So here's a look at what the setup looked like. We had one light on the left side. As you can see, the camera was right in the middle. The interview would be right in the center, and then on the side there, you can see that there's a mic, and there was a laptop to record the audio, and there was also a monitor too, so you could see directly on a bigger screen what that looked like. And as you can see too, we kind of switched over to one of the things too, also like creating a comfortable atmosphere. So one of the things that we did actually with this shoot, we wanted to create the cinematic look and give the viewer the perspective of being kind of like a fly on the wall. That was the concept of the idea with the interview. So we actually had the interviewee walk into the shot. So I started off with an empty chair, and then the interviewee kind of walks into the shot. They got comfortable, and then we asked them a couple of like icebreaker questions, and that's how the shoot was. It was a really great way of kind of getting people comfortable. Yeah, and then we can show you here too. Here's some videos of kind of the setup, and you can see more of the monitor as well. Yeah, and you can see on the monitor like it is in color, but we can actually switch it to black and white, and that's what we did. I wanted my friend who else helped me to kind of see what that looked like on camera without the editing. And here's more of the shoot as well too. And yeah, it was a really great and fun shoot. And I think so. Like also going into this project, I we had a limited time with the person we were interviewing, and the questions were, I think, a little as we were going through the process of actually dealing with the energy of the interview and what things we want to communicate and what story we wanted to tell. I helped to kind of like streamline some of these questions because some of them were very long. And I think, especially when you're doing an interview, you kind of want to focus on the aspect that a lot of the people who are watching this interview might know the person, but there's also a bunch of people who might not have seen that person, right? Or don't know who that person is. So you kind of want to create questions that kind of help tell that person's story and also create that excitement if it's the first time that they're seeing or hearing from this person, but also for people who know them. You want to create a level of intimacy and a deeper level of connection with the interviewee as well. So we had kind of a balance of those type of questions, which is something that we did pre-production, pre going into the shoot, and also because we had limited time with how much time we had this first one, so we had to figure out all the lighting, and this is something that you have to effectively do. A lot of the work actually is done with the pre-production stage. So what is pre-production? It's everything that like figuring out how you want it to look, how you want it to sound, who are you going to be interviewing in this case, what story are you trying to tell, and how do you effectively tell that story? And I think these are some of the things as you saw in the production look, where it's like the black and white. There's lots of inspiration from ASAP Rocky and Kendrick and all this that look that was done before the shoot. So going into us actually setting everything up, it actually took us a total of just like 30 minutes to set it up. And once we kind of got filming, it only took us, I think, about an hour. And then even with that too, that hour kind of gave us room to ask more questions or maybe to ask the interviewee to elaborate a little bit more. And we did a couple of takes, and yeah, and then it was off to the editing. And that's where really most of the magic kind of happens sometimes. But even with that, because we planned how we're going to shoot it, how it's going to look, the editing is actually easier because you kind of have had all those things kind of in consideration, and just helps you one create a better product, but also creates room for you to be creative. So how we actually ended up editing was not how we initially had planned it, and we had to tweak the sound a little bit because the sound we realized on the day wasn't as great. So we were able to bump it up a little bit and create a little bit more depth and darkness with the black and white shot. So I'll show you, excuse me, I'll show you kind of like what the final product looks like, and yeah, you get to kind of take a look at that. And I think these are my tips and some of my process. And even with this too, like one thing that this project actually allowed me to do was also refine my process, because it wasn't my idea, it was someone else's idea that they pitched to me. I was then able to refer back to projects I worked on before and kind of like, muscle memory, because I've done this type of work before, but because I've been able to do the work and get the reps in and make mistakes, I was able to, one, articulate certain things. So I'm like, hey, you only have an hour to shoot this, so make sure you get there to set up early. These questions are a little bit long, and like they might throw off the interviewee. So maybe how to make them shorter. And then some questions that I felt not as effective, like weren't telling that story well. So we're able to kind of like help her along with figuring out what questions do we need to cut out, how do we reframe certain questions, and yeah, and just. It's a really fun project. And for me too, I've been doing this for a very long time. I love doing projects like this where I wasn't getting paid to do it, but it was fun because I get to practice a lot of the things that I've learned and also try different techniques that I've learned along too that I might not be able to effectively try in client work. But this is one of those projects I got to be creative and try new things and bring someone else's vision to life. So yeah, it's really a lot of it too. I think one of the last tips I'll leave you is have fun. One of the things that I love about doing the things that I do is I've now gotten to a place where I can find that balance of having fun and creating content. And a lot of it too was me doing the reps and all the work in the beginning of doing projects I didn't necessarily like, and working at agencies and doing all these things and acquiring these skills that now effectively allow me to work for myself and pick the projects that I work on. But also even within that, these projects I don't necessarily feel excited to work on, but I work on them because I I want to try new things or new projects and also expand my portfolio. So that's one thing I constantly do, even as I'm growing, is thinking about those things. How do I become a better version of myself, and how do I expand my portfolio? So these are some tips and tricks that I think would be effective. If you have any more questions, obviously this was meant to be an in-person event, but unfortunately now this is video. So you can feel free to reach out. The organizers have my information, but you can follow me on Instagram and check out my portfolio. My Instagram handle is Outlandish Visuals on Instagram, and my portfolio is Outlandish Visuals Production. So you can kind of take a look at some of the work I've done, and I think it'll start making more sense. But yeah, these are just some tips and tricks that have worked for me, and also too, some of it too might not work for you because my journey is very different. I think one of the things I also have to say as a young person now is you guys have way more access to more tools and there's a lot more information, but also I think figure out what works for you, because these are tips that have worked for me. There's definitely something that are universal, but even as I was kind of taking the steps along my journey, there's a lot of information I was given that I realized was either not as helpful because it didn't really relate to me, because they had problems that I didn't have. For example, I'm a great communicator. I make friends really easily, and communicating with people was difficult for me. But I realized a lot of the people who were mentoring me kind of struggled with that. So it wasn't a skill that I necessarily had to learn. And I kind of disregarded some of the information, but there was also things that I hadn't experienced, and they had kind of made the mistakes, and I was able not to make those same mistakes as well too, because I had those people around me. So I think as helpful as this is, I say go out there and just go and shoot, just try stuff, learn your own mistakes, find a solid group of people who you can go and shoot and try new things, and who inspire you and who can give you feedback. And I think these are just a couple of tips and tricks from that I learned, and hopefully this is helpful to you. And yeah, till next time. Thank you.